All right, welcome back. This is Agri Talk right here on KTN Farmers TV, and we have Raphael Kinoti here, who is helping us just understand how to take care of the donkey. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, let's go now to the farmers side.
Yes.
How do you train farmers to take care of this animal so that it may be advantageous to them?
Thank you so much. I think that's a critical question that you've asked. Now, over the last couple of years, everybody has begun looking at Brook as a campaign entity. No, we are not a campaign entity. We are an animal welfare entity. And for the years that Brook has worked in Kenya since 2001, our focus has actually been on how do we improve the welfare of the donkey, but then also by extension quite a bit of other livestock. And so the bulk of our work has actually been based on community, where we've done huge numbers of trainings at the community level. When we first began working with communities, or even today when we go to a new community, people ask you like very obvious questions. Can donkeys get sick? Somebody will even ask you that. Actually, we went to one community and they said, yeah, we know they get sick, but whenever they get sick, they have to die. Yeah. You just leave it out there, let it die. It can never be treated. There's no vet who can do that. Mm-hmm. There are so many myths around the donkey. Very many of them. Actually, some of them very funny. I remember one time we were really struggling with community members in Joro. We wanted to take a donkey to Nakuru ASK show. Mm-hmm. And they said, you can never put our donkey on the vehicle because if a donkey is carried on a vehicle, there's a myth that it will laugh its way to death. Mm-hmm. So all sorts of myths. I think these myths are based on the premise that the donkey is very tough. And that's for sure. The animal is really tough. The way it's treated, if another animal is treated like that, they will not make it. But then the donkey is tough, but that doesn't mean that we actually take advantage of it. And so one of the greatest messages that we pass to communities is donkeys need to be treated like cattle, like sheep, like goats, like any other animal actually that you have on the farm. And so we get communities into groups of donkey owners or donkey users, because then there are people who use donkeys, then they're not necessarily the owners, especially in towns. And we then begin to take them through some of the basics. And I can give you examples of the basics. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, but we go through identifying the common illnesses in the donkey or common challenges with the donkey. External parasites, internal parasites. We also get to tell them actually that you need to have this animal having something to eat. But then also we help them to talk about the feet of the donkey, because then for the animals that are draft animals, animals that carry things and walk a lot, the donkey, the horse, the hoof is very critical. Mm-hmm. It is actually a major part of the body for the animal, because then if the hoof is not doing well, then the whole animal is not doing well. It can't walk nicely. It walks with a limp and so can't carry burdens and all this. And so one of the things we've been doing is put communities together, train them on hoof care, train them on the general welfare of the animal. And actually, we have trained tens of young people who are now involved in taking care of the donkey hoofs. They are called farriers. People actually will pick the hoof of the donkey and they will shape it nicely and well. I believe you've seen in the countryside some donkeys really having very long hoofs and having funny ways of walking, and people think this donkey, you can't rehabilitate it. Our farriers are doing that work. Mm-hmm. They cut the hoof and shape it so nicely and so well that a donkey that was walking in a very bad way actually begins to walk nicely and well. And a donkey that could not carry burdens because then the hoof was bad and the leg was bad, really the leg is rehabilitated and begins to walk nicely. So what we're doing is, after training these ones, we are then joining them with the groups of the farmers who are keeping donkeys. And so they help them in that. And then we set up a nice good system at the farmer level of paying for this person. Because then when this person works, they really will need to be paid something for them to sustain their livelihoods. And so those are the sorts of things actually we are keeping doing. But then we really would want to call upon the government. Yes, we are doing a lot of collaboration with them, but then we really would want to see a little bit more investment by the government in this animal. Because then, we are an NGO, we do small little projects. The government is a real thing, is a real muscle. And so a bit of collaboration with the government really would be a great thing.
All right, and now for communities with low rainfall,
Yes.
how would you say they can prepare themselves in order to take care of the donkey, especially when the dry season comes? How can they prepare themselves?
Beautiful. Actually, it's a very, very critical question, because I'll tell you a story I normally tell about the arid and semi-arid lands in Kenya, especially where they're doing total pastoralism. When drought comes, cattle and sheep and goats move. Even camels actually move. They are moved by young men mainly from one place to another to search for water and to search for pasture. But then in most of those communities, the whole household doesn't move. The woman is left at home to really take care of babies. Maybe the woman has a young baby and all this. And what else is left there? It is a donkey. So the woman is left maybe with a goat or two to be milking, but then the donkey is left there. Why? Because then the donkey is the one that really sustains the livelihood of that woman and the children in terms of going for water, maybe running to the market and coming back and all this. Now, when drought comes, therefore, this animal is very vulnerable. Most of the times it doesn't move. It is the one that is left to take care of the household, and it doesn't move with the rest of the livestock. One of the things we are really trying to do, and I'll give you examples of places where we've done this very successfully, in Baringo, we are helping communities to grow pasture. Grow, in some of these areas, you grow grass when it rains, like now the rains are coming, or rather they are already here with us. You grow grass and cut it and dry it and store it. Then the 1, 2, 3 animals that will be left at home when all the other animals have actually gone round, then they will really begin to utilize that one. Mm-hmm. So we have seen communities really do that. In 2017, we were forced, even last year actually, in Turkana, we were forced to give relief hay to actually households like those, where, the donkey is left there, it has absolutely nothing to eat, but then you see it's the one that's sustaining this family. And so when everybody really goes to the family and gives food for the lady and the children, we come in with relief hay for the donkey, so that then at least is able now to also continue sustaining this household. And so communities can actually grow pasture, and they can harvest it and store it. In Baringo, there are places we've grown Rhodes grass. I know farmers really know Rhodes grass, and it has done very well. In some other places, we've grown centuras grass. And farmers, we are helping them also to harvest those seeds. You grow this grass, you can harvest seeds and harvest the grass itself. And these seeds, actually, you can regrow them again and again and again. And so this is something that really can work in some of these dry areas. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now international organizations like OIE, are they pushing this agenda of donkey welfare? Do you think they are?
Actually, they are. For example, OIE, we are really big partners with OIE, because then OIE is the one that sets standards for animal welfare world over. It's like World Health Organization for people. OIE is the animals health organization, really. So it is the one that really sets standards for us, and OIE has been very, very supportive. I'll talk of FAO also, who have been significantly supportive. The topic of the donkey hasn't really traditionally been top in the news in the past. And I would say all these organizations didn't quite have this animal in the radar. Same thing with the governments. The governments actually didn't have this animal in the radar. And for a long time, even national budgets, even county budgets, never gave any monies to this animal. It would be vaccination, for example, for cattle, sheep, and goats, and nothing else for any other animal, including in those counties, actually, where these animals are so critical. They're helping communities to really move. But then I think a voice is rising now from community members and from institutions, organizations like ourselves, and saying this animal needs to be included. So we are gradually seeing the inclusion of this animal, even with international entities, national entities. We are beginning to see the inclusion of this animal. We are not yet there, Kevin, I'll tell you. We are miles behind. We may need to pull up our socks and move forward so that then we are able to cater for this animal and give it the status that it deserves, just like any other animal.
And okay, someone might ask, all right, I have reared a donkey.
Yeah.
It's in my farm. So then why am I keeping it in the farm? Am I keeping it for prestige? Am I keeping it for the sake of carrying goods? And if I keep it for the sake of carrying goods, it might be that I'm mistreating it. So how do you go about it? A farmer who has a donkey and they've kept it there, they've followed all those things that are supposed to be done. So are they keeping it for prestige, or they're keeping it for the purposes of maybe carrying goods?
Beautiful. Actually, as an animal welfare organization, we say we work with working animals. For Brooke, if you're keeping a donkey as a pet, then you're outside our radar. We really intervene with those community members who are keeping equines, the donkeys and horses, for work. A donkey is very useful in a farm. I'll tell you, you move outside Nairobi on your way to Nakuru, for example. I'll give an example. Maybe there's a place that I know many people know in Limuru called Sokomjinga, where at 5 a.m. or even earlier, there is vegetables there that have been brought from the rural areas. You move along that highway at 5 a.m., there are huge numbers of donkeys there. Go to a place like Bomet, for example, and go to a milk buying center in the morning. Sometimes you think donkeys are more than people because they are carrying milk, bringing it over, but then as they go back, you will see donkeys carrying pasture for livestock back home, some carrying water for those animals back home. Actually, I didn't bring photos, but we photos also of somebody who bought an animal and has placed it on the donkey cart, and so the donkey is carrying the cow on the cart. Oh yes, people are using donkeys to do everything. A case in point, there's a farm that I really love visiting in Naivasha. I don't know whether they'll be happy, but I think yes, Flamingo Horticulture in Naivasha. Flamingo Horticulture, they do top-notch flowers for export. But in the operations, in the farm, in the transportation of flowers, they use donkeys. and they will tell you actually the flowers that have been carried on the back of the donkey are not like the flowers that have been carried by a machine. The donkeys have a way that they walk smoothly, and so the flowers arrive when they are less injured. And so the flowers have longer lifetime on the market than those that have been carried through other means. So the donkey is completely useful in the running of the farm. Of course, we are not promoting the usage of these animals, but I'll tell you, today in Kenya, huge population of Kenyans are using the hoe, the jembe, in farming. But then there are communities in Kenya who use the donkey as a draft animal to do the plowing. That's mechanization, actually. Yes. That's the next stage, because the jembe is what was used by our ancestors from long time ago. And what I can do with my hand, to plow land, is what one donkey, my work for one day is work for an hour for the donkey. You see? So it's a very good animal in terms of the farm mechanization, internal farm transport, but then transport even within the farm and outside the farm. Very agile animal and very, very useful. In high potential areas, they may not tend to know the donkey. I've talked to women in some of the high agricultural areas in Kenya. They say, oh, we can't handle that. It can't be handled by a woman. But then you go down to Masai Rad in Narok and you find 80% of the donkeys are used by women. It's a very, very agile animal. It's an animal that is very easy to use. And so really, for somebody who is using the animal in the farm, you try to remove it and they will never really want it out of there, because then it drives the engine of the farm nicely and well. Yeah.
All right. Let us look at some of the advantages, since you've started talking about them. Yes. Let us look at these advantages and see what they really bring into not only the farm, even the economy as a whole. Yes. Because they help in transportation, they help in even rice transportation from maybe the farm to the market. So what are some of the important contributions of this animal to the transport sector? Because we are also seeing them in Lamu as a way of transport.
Critical. The donkey, I would say, has built Africa. Before we discovered all these machineries, Africa doesn't have significant numbers of horses. So the animal really that has been driving transport in Africa is the donkey. It has been the donkey through and through. You've mentioned Lamu, where bikes just came the other day. Lamu is built by donkeys, virtually, literally. Go to all the drier zones of this country. Mm-hmm. Virtually every household there has a donkey, because then of water transportation, any goods to the market. You go to a market day in Wajir or Marsabit or Turkana, and you find donkeys all over at the marketplace. Why? Because they brought wares from home to the market, and they will pick more back home. So the animal has significant use. Come to urban and peri-urban zones. I'll mention Nairobi. Go to areas of Ruai, and you find tens of young people with donkeys. Why? Water transportation. But then you also want to vacate a house, to go to another house. Actually, people prefer the donkey, because then you pay less. It's not like if you got a pickup to come and move you from one house to another. The donkey will do it nicely, and the donkey will do it at a fairer price. If you're doing construction, I have lots of construction sites in this county, Nairobi, where the people who are supplying the materials there are donkey owners. From water to everything else that they're supplying there really It's a donkey. So very, very useful animal. But then, if you look at the news, when disaster strikes anywhere, say there is a flood and, people are moving from an area. As people carry luggages on their heads and their shoulders, the animal that is really present there also moving along with the people and carrying bigger luggage, it is a donkey. The use of the donkey in climate change, the animal really sustaining communities when disaster strikes and when really where rubber meets the road, when communities are very vulnerable. It is the animal that is there standing with the community members really to get them out of that disaster, out of that crisis.
All right. Even as we finish this, the conversation has been really interesting, but we have to finish. Now, your last sentiments when it comes to what needs to be done in order to make sure that this animal doesn't just fade away as the years go. Maybe 5 years from now, you find that the species of donkeys will have maybe reduced. So what needs to be done in order to make sure that we sustain this remaining that we have?
I think we all have a role actually to ensure the sustenance of this. Our constitution, I was looking at it a little bit early in the morning, talks about the government having the role of biodiversity sustainability. The donkey is an African animal, is amongst our biodiversity. We have to ensure that it is there for our posterity. But then, lots of community members, as at now, are using this animal. I know many people are talking of, bikes have come and all this, which is wonderful, great development. But then a woman in Turkana, the bike will be very, very less useful.
Yes.
If she owns a donkey, that's the thing. If you give her a bike for her to own it, the technicalities of her owning the donkey are very complicated. The bike are very complicated. This is an animal that is useful. Kindly, let's recognize its contribution to our economy. Because really, you quantify. Right now, we are quantifying the contribution of the donkey in the milk value chain. And it's huge, the contribution of that animal in that. Let every county in this country quantify the importance of this animal to the people who they serve. Let the national government also quantify that. Let's begin allocating resources to this animal. Of course, I know you go to the West countries in the Mediterranean region, you find countries like Spain and others, Italy. They are milking the donkey. Donkey milk there is very costly, and cheese from the donkey, actually donkey cheese is the most costly from the goat cheese, you see? So there's a lot that this animal can generate for communities. And so let's allocate resources, but then also to communities. This is a critical animal to us. And actually, just like you care for cattle and sheep and goats and all the other livestock, pigs, please take care of the donkey. House them. You don't have to leave it to roam everywhere on the streets or in the villages. House it just like you house the other livestock. It is very important that actually we know this is an animal that is as useful and that needs enough care, just care like any other livestock.
All right. Thank you so much for informing us and just discussing with us about the welfare of the donkey. That has been Raphael Kinoti, who is the Regional Director, Brook East Africa, where they deal with horses and the welfare of the donkey. And he has just explained to us what you as a farmer need to do, or even an individual need to do in order to make sure that every donkey around you or any donkey that you're taking care of is up to the standard of even any other animal in the farm, as the cow, even as the poultry. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi. This has been Agri Talk right here on KTN Farmers TV. Let's meet next time, same place, same time, right here on Farmers TV.